I need to remember how to, so I can see everybody at the same time.
If you go to your settings, the three dots at the bottom, and
Yep.
click change layout and choose tiled, that should do it.
Thank you, Councillor Bismarck. Magically, it's working now.
I had a new light installed in this room, and it certainly is brighter than it was. But
we got different computers at school, so my screen is smaller. So I want to be like here. I can't see. Maybe I need glasses.
There's no audio right at the moment, but I think it's because we haven't started, right? I just got a message from someone who's watching who said there was no audio, but I think it's because Dylan hasn't started recording the meeting yet because you haven't opened it.
Mark, is this yours?
I thought it was Paul, but I guess who's the chair?
That's 2 out of 3. I guess I'll take it. Good evening, everyone. We'll call the infrastructure committee meeting to order. First item will be roll call. Mark Eastman.
Here.
Ed Rankin.
Here.
And Paul Bissonette is here as well. The next item on the agenda is animal shelter discussion.
We have Director Gagan, Deputy Chief Winchester, Animal Control Officer Moore here, as well as Mike Hawes, to sort of discuss what's going on with this whole issue. And whichever, Director Gagan, are you starting this off, or Deputy Chief Winchester, how would you like to?
I certainly can. Basically speaking, the animal shelter at this point has several towns that we service out there, and things are going very, very, very well. Almost too well, to the point where the people that work out there, we have Allison and her assistant that work out there weekly, daily, and weekly to take care of the pets that are out there, both cats and dogs. So in recent months and before this also, we get to the point where that place is very, very full, like overcrowded full, and that happens. She'll speak more on this here in a bit. I'll just give you the overview of what we're looking at here, where towns are calling the town manager, and then they're getting a hold of me to see exactly what we're doing because they're paying for a service. And at points, we really haven't denied anyone that I know of, but we've had to work really hard to take in more pets for certain towns that call at certain times when we're full. I know DC Winchester goes out there quite a bit to look around. I've been out there. The place is very well kept. They do a very, very good job in what they do. It's just a matter of space and number of animals that we're really taking in at this point and trying to handle both of those and not say no to anybody at this point. So that's kind of the overview that I think that got us here. We have done some renovations over the years to the shelter, and I'm going to let them speak more about what we would like to look at in the future as far as that shelter goes. So I will pass it on from there, but that's the overview as to why we're here. And like I said, we did do renovations as far as the roof, redid the inside of the shelter years ago, and we're really just at this point running out of room is the real issue.
So I'll chip in here a little bit, and Allison can correct me if I'm wrong. So we currently have the main structure, which has 5 runs for our dogs. The problem with that is there's just simply not enough room for those animals. We try to get rid of them as quickly as we can, but some of those dogs are there for longer than we'd like, and it's just not suitable for a long-term place for the animal. So we've discussed maybe adding an outdoor fenced-in area to allow the dogs to go out. We are supposed to, by the state standards, separate cats and dogs. We don't have the space to do that. We currently have, or Allison currently has 25 cats at that shelter, but only 19 kennels. So we have animals that are living together. We can't currently adopt them out because there's an illness right now at the shelter, and maybe Alice can speak on that. We are servicing 9 communities, including Bucksport. So those 2 structures, I think, are just simply too small for what we're trying to do. Anything I missed, Allison, that you want to chip in on? You got to unmute yourself, Allison.
I'll go check on her. You hold on.
I'll just add while we're waiting, Allison told me today that since August, we've taken in 63 cats to that shelter. She's done a good job. She's participated in a number of adoption clinics. But right now, we're just simply overrun.
All right, you good now? So yeah, it's just really a lack of space for all the animals, plus all the storage. We don't have any storage space or anything like that. It's just really just too small, I think, with the amount of communities that we are serving. And I mean, it would be amazing if we could have like a washer and dryer there and even a bathroom and stuff like that. So I think, I don't know, I think the shelter is ready for a facelift, really. And we are struggling with the cats right now with being sick, because usually in animal shelter, they would come in and get quarantined, and our quarantine space is like a 10 by 10 shed. And most of our cat kennels are out there, so when one cat gets sick, they all kind of get sick out there because we can't truly quarantine them. I think that's the biggest issue right now. And we have like a great community support and adoptions when we can go really smoothly. So that's really the biggest struggle right now. So. I'm not sure what to add there.
So I guess my question would be, what are we looking to do in terms of moving forward? Seems like obviously if we're going to have this, if we're going to have the animal shelter and it's being run as well as it has been, that we need to do a little bit better than what we're doing. Is there a request on the table or something that we're looking at doing moving forward to improve things there, or where is that?
So I spoke with the state humane agent, Doug, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his last name. And he drew up a draft of a potential shelter if we had the ability to start from scratch. So we were looking at that. Can we tear down what we currently have, build a new structure there? Could we hook on to the transfer stations, water and sewer or whatever to build a structure? In that process, I had a conversation with Mike Hawes, who is here with us, and that's kind of why he's here. Mike, I don't know if you want to chip in on your thoughts on some of the discussions that we've had.
Yeah, I was just concerned with the noise level. We're getting a lot of barking down at Silver Lake Estates. It hasn't been bad the last month or so, but sometimes in the summertime they're really they're barking, and then they get, it's like a chain reaction They all get barking, and it's pretty loud. It's the reason that just echoes down into the little community we got there. I don't know if moving forward, if you build it different, maybe angle it so when the dogs are out, there's a wall in between to maybe echo it, or maybe have a different location altogether. But I'm not really sure where the right place would be, because it would have to be in, like, probably a non-residential area. So I guess that's what we're going to have to figure out, the best move.
Sue, do you know what the sewer and water is out there? I'm assuming it's a septic system, so what is it old? As old as the dump? You're muted, Sue.
There's a well and there's septic, but it's not hooked to the town sewer. Nothing out there is hooked to the town sewer. It doesn't go as far as the town garage. But, there is water and sewer treatment available. A septic system and a well is what is there that serves the current transfer station. In terms of trying to short and long term, kind of what the initial thing that was presented was that even if there was some fenced in outdoor space for these animals, that would help the situation, because right now there isn't. And that just keeps them all cramped in the same place most of the time. And that the idea longer term was whether or not it would be possible to leave what's there, design and construct one adjacent, and then tear down the old one. And the location-wise, I'm not sure where else where it would go. This is behind a fenced-in area. It's a secure location for the reasons of that location. But certainly, whatever new facility was could have better sound orientation so that Mr. Hawes' development isn't. And if there was more room, sufficient room for these animals to be there, then they would be less likely to be barking all the time, which is.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Cry and unhappy animals bark. That's kind of where you go. So, but the idea is to sort of get a sense from the committee, or the council is all here, on whether you would support fundraising for a new animal shelter. Deputy Chief Winchester and I had talked about there are a lot of people who support this facility who are concerned that it's just too small. It's too small, and it's not built to be what it's supposed to be doing in terms of those kind of things. And so then the question is, do we maintain this? Do we keep this, or do we just figure Bangor Humane Society is our only option, and then the cost to this community goes up dramatically, as it does to the other 8 communities that are using this facility, because they pay us to use our facility, and then they pay ongoing for the cost of care of any animals that come into the shelter from those communities. So.
I guess I'd kind of like to see whether it's more feasible to add on to the existing structure, or like you just mentioned, just tear it down and start from scratch. Because I got to confess, I've never actually been down there and looked it over closely. mean, I've seen it, but so I should probably talk with Allison sometime and go see it myself. But I'd like to see that from somebody, a professional that would, whether we can add on to it or just start from scratch.
I've been down there a few times, and the last time I was down, I remember thinking to myself that it's time to get a new one of these. I really, when we put I believe it was a cooling system in, was it last year or the year before? Thinking to myself, we're going to put a cooling system in, but what else do we need besides that, like for this? So I'm on board with looking at options for replacement. It's been there a while.
Yeah, I'd be open to looking at replacement as well. Going back to the septic system, though, I wonder if it's an old 70s septic, and what would this new facility use? Is it going to be adequate? And if it isn't, what does that look like?
I don't know what the state standards are for. I know that for dog kennels, it's, X amount of animals and the water that's used for cleaning and all that drives the size of the septic system that's necessary, much the same as bedrooms in a house does in terms of that kind of thing. So I don't know what the size requirement is, but I do know that that's spelled out in statute that, our code officer, could look at what's there and tell us what's possible with what exists or what would need to be done with that as well.
Okay.
The other thing to consider is, I know Allison is there 4 or 5, 6 times a week at 5 hours at a pop. There's no restroom there for her, and there's no facility to wash the stuff for the animals, no place to launder anything. So those would be considerations as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time she's either bringing that stuff home or we're doing it at the fire department from time to time, along with where their gear goes and stuff like that. So I'm not sure how, it's clean, obviously, but in the layout, as Mr. Rankin said, I think if you look at that, the lay of the land down there, you have the shelter and then you have a shed beside it that she's talking about. We have heating systems in both. I think that we'd have to look at it, but I think it would be able to be doubled in size and width as to where that shed is that way. In back of that, the leach bed sits right off the back end of this building, so that could be an issue back towards the back side of the building, but towards the right, I think it would be something that could be looked at for sure.
So someone mentioned the idea of having a professional look at this. If we had, David's got something that the state animal agent had drawn up, you said, David, that would, or at least contained all the requisite items.
Yeah, he drew up a design when we were discussing it. He has designed, I think, several of these shelters. So he drafted one for me that I currently have. It separates the cats and the dogs with an office space in the middle, along with a room for a washer and a dryer and a sink. So I have that currently with the size that we would be looking at.
I think we're at the point where this is a service I think that the town wants to still have, and I think the next step is to see what it's going to cost to fix this place up. I mean, that ultimately is what's going to end up driving our decision. I think agreeing with Sue that there's going to be a cost one way or the other, whether we're having the animals here or taking them someplace else. So We have good folks doing good things down there, and again, it's a great service. I think that a lot of folks are using even outside of town. So I think, the next step is to have David or Allison or somebody figure out what and how much. Then I think we could go from there. I would support that.
Yeah, I would as well.
I would.
David, do you think you can talk to that designer about, Mike's concerns around sound and whether there's a design that fits that better than another?
That may be beyond his scope. I don't really know. And I'm not sure how we would arrange it to help Mike's area. If we turn it or angle it and put the dog kennels facing away, does that help? If they're out in the summer and there's 4 or 5 dogs there, is that going to satisfy what he's looking at? So I can absolutely check.
Okay, thank you.
And the other thing is, we can also check with other shelters, the Humane Society and others, to find out what they've done to mitigate sound as much as possible in the neighborhoods that they're located in. Because it would be an issue, unless it was in an industrial area, it would be an issue for almost any neighborhood if that was a concern. So, David, is the drawing something you can circulate so people could look it over? And,
Absolutely. I know you probably can't see it here, but I have it. What I will do is I will email a copy to everybody. And make
Perfect.
Sure it's a copy of it.
Perfect. Yep, that'd be great.
Because in order to find out a cost, we would have to have it a little more formalized than that, as far as to put out for an RFP, just to see for a cost of, to see if we put it out to bid, what we got for bids to do construction, and that's how you'll know what it would cost you to do it. But I think it might need to be a little more developed. Mike, you're a builder. Would it need to be more developed than that kind of a drawing in order to give a price?
Yeah, I'm sure that building will have to be all commercial code with all your wiring and stuff. It's how big is that, Dave? You know how many square feet that is?